So there's this movie called 10 Cloverfield Lane, and basically the premise of it is there's this group of people that were set or put into a bunker, and they were led to believe that the outside world is dangerous. That essentially, if you were to step foot outside, that it's hostile, you'll die, right? Long story short. And then for one reason or another, I think a character finds out that that's false. So then she experiences and witnesses that it's not true, these things that everybody's been telling them, and then she tries to tell everybody else, but everybody else is like, nah, bitch, you're crazy. I think that's the best way to explain what a spiritual awakening is actually like, especially if you're able to not kind of go too far in the ethers and actually able to integrate and ground the experiences that you have within in this physical realm. So from the perspective I hold with things that I've experienced and the things that I do and the things that I teach even, it's kind of like me going outside and being like, "Hey, look, outside exists. Like there's all these things that you can see, that you can do, that you can experience." But everybody is so conditioned to think that I would be the crazy one for then stating that outside even exists. People have the response thinking that just because they don't have the awareness or the knowledge of what is out there, or they don't have the ability to know what happens when you die, or they don't have the ability to know about whatever else, or they haven't had the knowledge of it, they feel like nobody else has the capacity to gain that wisdom, to gain that experience, to gain that knowledge. And then when somebody like me comes along saying like, oh, this is what this really is, this is how reality is created, this is how we experience reality, this is how we interact with it, it gets met with, what the fuck are you talking about? It seems like it's something so far past what is even conceivable because most people haven't been able to experience or conceive the things I'm speaking of. And especially when it comes to people who are still like programmed by religion, who will be like, oh, you're not afraid of hell, you're not afraid of God, you're not afraid of this. No, quite literally no. And it's not even to be like in a disrespectful way, but if you were to have a fear of something your entire life, and then you confront your fear, and then you really experience something that solidifies that what you are afraid of, you have no reason to have that fear, you wouldn't hold those same beliefs. Like once you have certain spiritual experiences, and once you have certain things happen to you, or your consciousness expands to a certain point, you can't go back. And if you do, then I guess I can guarantee it creates a lot more dissonance in your experience than leaning into the expansion that you've experienced. And then what also gets a little difficult is to try and then explain to people that while there might be overlapping constructs between a belief system or a ideology, that the things that you might be speaking about have nothing to do with belief, that there is an underlying factual mechanism and science behind how reality is experienced and how we interact with it. The even crazier part is that people tend to think that it's even unscientific to even entertain the notions of the things that I speak of. When in reality, science, and that's the craziest part, science actually does back the things that I speak of. It's just that most people are not introduced to the science, so therefore they think that it's something that is just insane or impossible to grasp or obtain. When in reality, there are literally documents on government websites that give you information and knowledge about these things. There are documentaries that speak about these things. There are so many different fields within the scientific realm that acknowledge, explore, and investigate these concepts and actually turn up with palpable, concrete, consistent evidence within certain paradigms. So the amount of cognitive dissonance that it takes to, like, it's very difficult to interact with people because it doesn't matter how rational, how logical you can be with an individual, because of their level of pre-programmed or preconceived notions, it can almost just shut any level of being able to ration or reason with somebody off. And this is not just strictly speaking about religious people, this is just humans in general. You can quite literally tell somebody like, okay, you don't have to believe me. There is a reason to, it's reasonable to have skepticism. And then in that exact same breath, I can then give you methods and modalities and tools to then learn and verify this knowledge for yourself. But most people don't even want to go to that because in their mind, it just doesn't, there's such a big gap between what they believe is even entertainable as science and what is actually what reality actually is, that they just feel like they kind of like it's a wall almost. It's like their prior experiences almost become like a wall and a filter that don't allow them to go past it. Pretty much go past what they believe to be reality prior. I can tell people I've literally written a book on how to manipulate the air, and telekinesis is real, and I can tell you methods on how to do it yourself, but people will still not necessarily grasp what I'm stating. The things I speak of, it doesn't really matter if you believe it or if I believe it. It's kind of like how my hand, you see my hand waving up and down. You see how that doesn't really matter if I believe it's happening or not. There's a certain level of objectivity when it comes to certain metaphysical concepts. And I think that because of the nature of what these metaphysical concepts are, it seems impossible to then call that an objective thing. But I will state that there are certain truths that apply to everything and everybody within reality. And we are not, while we all interact with reality in a very interesting and individualistic way, there are still certain structures that then allow those experiences to happen from an individual perspective. So it's like both we have like the playground of objectivity that then gives the and breathes the way for subjective experiences to happen. So to kind of like simplify what I'm saying, it's like, yes, I'm in this room. Yes, we can all agree that I'm in this room. But then how I would experience this room, how my mom might experience this room, how other people would experience this room, or this earth, or this reality will then be different. So yeah, there's a certain level of objectivity to the way that we experience reality, but I think I don't think it is so much more subjective and individualized than we are led to believe that we are experiencing more or less one cohesive, one individual kind of like synced up reality in which we are all interacting with and seeing for what it is. When in reality, it's infinite perspectives interacting with reality in infinite different ways, and infinite different possibilities happen as a result of that. Because I can tell you that me watching a television show, I can literally have messages come in from infinite intelligence or my higher mind, while people would literally just watch a normal TV show and they wouldn't even be able to grasp that infinite intelligence is even communicating with them. And I mean things that have like quite literally stopped me from putting myself in danger. Times like where I've literally gotten messages to change my brake light or to change a tail light or to do this or to do that. So I'm not saying this is it's something that is just woo woo and you can't verify. I'm saying that it's verifiable. Most people just don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to even entertain it, much less try to verify it for themselves. But either way, peace and blessings, and I hope you guys have a great day.